Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh, yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is great to see you. Welcome to my home. Welcome to the office, and welcome to the morning grind. I'm Heath, and I'm going to be here with you this morning. Our main topic here is going to be taking a look at Knave 2nd Edition. Here it is, right here. I got the Kickstarter awards. Oh, RPG by DBJ is here. Hey, good morning. Good morning. It says I have my physical copy. I got mine too. I'm not sure. There may have been more that you could have gotten on the Kickstarter. I don't remember, but I think that. But all that I got was this. But I got the core book because I thought that was important. So this did show up a few days ago. So here I am with Knave. So we're going to be taking a look. I haven't even taken the shrink wrap off of it yet. So it is sitting here shrink wrapped. So, yep, these are the Kickstarter awards that I have in hand right now. Scenes by Omnic is here. Good morning. Good morning. So this is, we'll take a look at it. And, you know, one of the reasons that I was excited about this is because I remember that we took a look at the original Knave. When we were taking a look at, so many different RPGs that we have taken a look at over the past, I don't know how many episodes, 450 episodes now. We've taken a look at a lot, and I did really like the original Knave. It was very simple. It was short, but I thought that it had a lot going for it. And then we dove into the second edition here, and I backed its Kickstarter. So this is kind of its expanded version here, and we'll talk about what we think here. So I mean, who has it with them, and who has read it already? Good morning, Lynn, and good morning, Tomocrat. Good morning, Mike. Good morning. Let's see. Tomocrat has just moved and is now in his new location. It's fantastic. Zero the Blade. Good morning, Zero the Blade. All right. So let's go ahead and do our breathe and sip right here. I got my drink this morning. It's hot here, so I've just got Coke Zero. But let's do our breathe and sip. Let's do 2 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. 2 deep breaths. This is the mental health portion of the show. So here we go. Let's breathe. And sip. There we go. Very good. Let's see. A lot of things that have been going on here, but are not quite ready and finished yet. I'm thinking about changing up some software that runs the show. I've been trying to do several different upgrades. I still have not gotten my other camera over here working, but it may just. I've got a new battery charging, so we're going to see if that camera works. I'm still trying to upgrade the camera. I may have to just move to something else. Well, we'll see. I'm still working on that. I'm going to try to upgrade the software as well that runs the show, maybe. So I'm doing some upgrades over here. I have been in contact with different manufacturers about the Cultist RPG, and so I have been. I'm still waiting on quotes to get back from that. They were sending back some questions and things like that. I got to price out the players pack and things like that. I don't know if we're going to be able to do the manufactured miniatures or not, but I'm also going to reach out and try to get these STLs made up for the miniatures or improved a little bit for the miniatures that'd be more suitable for at-home printing. If that's the way we go, I've got to work on that, and I've also got to get. I've decided I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get the portraits done of these people for the pre-generated characters, and then use that to create the virtual tabletop for that. And then once I have that, then we can start playing in the virtual coffee shop. And I started writing an email to everybody who was on the coffee shop list. If you don't know, the virtual coffee shop, Cultist Coffee is where what I have set up for us to be able to play games in. And we've done that a couple of times, 3 or 4 times. But I haven't been able to organize events, and I just really want this to be easier because it's a lot of me at the moment to do the whole event cycle. I would much rather be able to play week to week much more easily. And people have also talked about having the coffee shop open, and I want to be able to play different things, including the Cultist RPG, so we can do some play testing and things like that. So if you're on that list, you'll probably get an email soon. And then we're going to talk about, and you can talk about in the Discord server under the Raven Keep Coffee Shop section for the coffee shop general, like organization or what you think and things like that. And I would like to get that going because I have not been playing enough games. We should be able to get together and play some Hero Quest. Well, I guess I should put out some kind of link for that, shouldn't I? Let me just put the Discord server link. If you are here, but you're not part of the Discord server, here is the Raven Keep Discord server. There we go. So you can get in on that. And of course, I put out when I'm going live and things like that as well. So anyway, still things continue to be updating, but things just take a lot longer than usual. So hope everybody's doing well. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at Knave. I'm going to bring up the auxiliary camera. Right there. All right. So, yeah, this came in a little while ago. It's a little bit thinner than I think I was expecting. So this is, as far as its size goes, it's a little bit smaller than a 6x9 book. So here's our 6x9 reference book, which is the Fate book. So it's just a little bit smaller than 6x9, whatever that happens to be. But it is hardback. It's a hardback book. I want to take a look at the page count because to me, this is about as small a book as you want to do hardback. like people talking about doing hardbacks and things like that. Like, what kind of minimum page count do you need in order to have a hardback for it to actually really look reasonable? And I kind of think this is about the minimum for a reasonable hardback of this size. So, Knave Second Edition hardback book. On the back, it says a comprehensive toolkit for GMs. And I think this is important, I guess, for what it is that we're actually expecting here. We've got a comprehensive toolkit for GMs who build wide open fantasy worlds, a flexible classless rule set for players who scheme, strategize, and seek adventure. So it's a toolkit, a flexible classless rule set. And that was one of the draws that I liked with Knave originally, was that it was classless. It was very much about what your character, the gear your character had, as I recall, and going on an adventure. And, in some ways, I want to think your character was an adventurer who could use a whole bunch of different items. I forget exactly what type of items allowed you to cast spells, but if you wanted to cast spells, then you needed to get spell casting items. If you want to be a warrior, then get armor and swords. And I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about something about that quite a bit when I've been thinking about going on perhaps for Fated Edge or a Fated Edge adventure game. What is it that makes somebody really suitable for going on an adventure? Or going into a dungeon where you're going to be killing monsters. Like, what type of statistics, what kind of people are going to be really good at that? And like, the answer is often strong people with great dexterity. Like, if you're going to be doing this kind of occupation, what kind of person should be going into the dungeon? Well, yeah, people are like, man, strength or dexterity, they're really overused stats. They're really too, powerful or whatever. Well, consider what you're doing here. If the game is about going into a dungeon and killing monsters, well, then being stronger and really being able to use your body effectively are probably going to be some traits that you would really want to have in order to be able to go and do that. So I was thinking, and when you're trying to balance different kinds of character classes, it's like, well, what if you just had people who are all capable, strong people who are capable and then you distinguish them in different ways. And it's been a while since I've read Knave, but maybe it's kind of going in that direction. Maybe that's kind of a direction that's going in. Mike says desperate people. I was thinking about, like, if you had a game where you've got knights, you're doing like a dungeon crawl game, like an adventure board game. Well, could you have, what if all of the characters were knights? Like, what kind of characters would be good for going into a dungeon? Well, a knight. Well, then how do you differentiate all the different characters, even if they are all knights, and that could be by, like, the weapons that they use. The weapons they use could be really important there and distinguish each other. Like, the knight who fights with the great axe could be different than the knight who fights with sword and shield or something like that. And then you're not trying to figure out, why is the scholar down here? And or how do I make the scholar good at fighting? Well, maybe the scholar isn't good at fighting. Maybe it should just be the knights. I don't know. That's kind of off the top of my head here. But that goes with this, that, okay, we're doing a classless game here, where, as I recall, we were distinguishing each other by the distinguishing the characters by what kind of gear they got. I do like the feel of this book right here. It's got the it's kind of the semi-gloss kind of feel to it. It's not gloss. It's not just matte. It's got that I don't even know how to describe it. But the leathery kind of texture, or the rubbery kind of texture. I really like that. Wait a minute. Do you see that? I think the book's cover is on upside down. Does anybody else have this? I just turned it up, opened it, and the book is upside down. Has anybody else seen anything about that? Was anybody else expecting that? Have they been talking about that on Reddit or, Twitter or wherever else? I've been thinking that maybe I should, I read Reddit occasionally, or rather frequently, but then I read Twitter occasionally. But I was thinking in the upgrades, we've had the ideas about sort of changing up the format of the show, because I want to talk about some current topics and things like that, because we do have the new edition of Dungeons and Dragons that's coming out, and I've not even paid any attention to it at all. Like, I just have not been interested at all. But so I have no idea what's going on with that. There are other things going on. Maybe I should get a little bit more clued into what's actually going on. But anyway, does that have anybody else? So, okay, I think the book is just upside down. That's kind of a big thing. Anybody else's Knave book upside down? Okay, well, let's just assume then that the back here is the start. Okay, this is by Ben Milton. It says there were 10,000 copies. I haven't never seen this before. Somebody write this down here. But it says that the first printing was 10,000 copies of the standard edition and 4,000 copies of the premium edition. I'm guessing that I have that. Well, I wonder, yeah, Mike says, I'm sure if I contacted the Kickstarter, if they would fix that for me. Is it really, you think it's really likely that I happen to have a one-off book that's upside down? Like RPG, DBJ, does yours happen to be upside down? Did I just happen to get a one-off that is upside down? Like, surely they didn't accidentally print thousands of them that are upside down and not notice. Like, surely that didn't happen. Or decide to ship anyway or something like that. All right. So if you're unfamiliar with this, okay, let's see. What have we got? We do have the table of contents. So what is actually inside this? We've got the introduction. We've got tables, dungeon master duties, player duties, ability scores, PC creation, item slots, and wounds. I do want to take a look at that because I am a fan of item slots, and I am also a fan of like a wound system. I haven't seen Bacon Gaming. Haven't seen James Bacon in the chat yet this morning. But he was talking about hit points. He waded into the hit point debate on his channel. And, of course, I did on this channel as well. I've got videos on hit points and why I don't like them. So I would like to come up with a wound system. I really want to have a good adventure game with a wound system. Let's see. Leveling up, checks, traveling, weather, delving, encounters, combat, hazard, spellcasting, spells, generating new spells, relic magic, alchemy. We do have alchemy. Okay, that's interesting. I like alchemy. I wonder what he's doing with this in this game. Equipment, buildings, warfare, downtime, recruiting, monsters, bestiary, gameplay example, designer's commentary. Designer's commentary. Okay, I'd be interested to know what he says here on designer's commentary. We might want to take a look at that. We got a hex map in the back here, and then a isometric dungeon map here. Interesting. I don't see any like numbers on this. Let's see. Yeah, maybe it was a mistake. Or DBJ, so I guess not. DBJ says most likely a mistake run. Get it signed by Ben. I'd still like to talk to him. Maybe have him on Table Talk. You know, I re-aired last night on Table Talk, on the Table Talk channel. I re-aired because I've been trying to move the episodes of Table Talk from this channel over to its own dedicated channel. And I thought I was all the way done with that, but there were still actually, after last night's, but there's still like 3 more or something like that. But I moved the conversation, or I re-aired the conversation last night that Brianna and I had about the Satanic Temple last night, where she's part of that. And so we were talking about good and evil and storytelling in the Satanic Temple. It was a fantastic conversation. So if you didn't see that over on the Table Talk channel, that is over there now. It's like a 3.5-hour conversation. So it looks like in the beginning, so I think I was saying that because I would love to have him. I would love to have Ben on Table Talk. Of course, now when the Kickstarter was on, I mean, that's not a good time to talk to anybody. Oh, Mike. Yeah, I know. I saw Mike's comment. Mike was watching it this morning, and Mike commented it was a good conversation. Saw it this morning. So let's see. Okay, introduction. So if you don't know what this is, or if you need a memory refresher, kind of like I do. So introduction. Knave is an old school fantasy role-playing game in the tradition begun by David Wesley, Dave Arneson, and E. Gary Gygax in games such as Braunstein, Blackmoor, and Dungeons and Dragons. As part of that design tradition, it's broadly compatible with monsters, items, and adventures created by the thousands of hobbyists over the past 50 years. Like its predecessors, Knave's gameplay is fundamentally open-ended. Its goal is to help groups create a believable other world that players can explore and interact with through their characters, limited only by the world's internal logic and the game master's rulings. Anything may be attempted, and survival is not guaranteed. Knave's rules are also open-ended and are intended as a starting point to help get a campaign off the ground. They assume the traditional framework in which player characters, PCs, set out from a safe haven into the wild, search dangerous ruins, and dungeons for treasure, and then return to the haven to carouse and recuperate. The summaries at the front and back of this book can be printed out to help players get up to speed. Nothing in these rules is sacrosanct. The rules let your table revolve over the course of the campaign as you and your players tailor them to fit the way that you play. It's a good thing. Altering the rules and writing your own is a time-honored part of the hobby and a critical part of becoming a great game master, and in time, great game designer. To help you with that, I've added designer commentary section at the back of this book, which walks you through my thought process and explains why I wrote the rules like I did. I do want to check that out. It's an upside down. What do I put this? Does it go out on eBay? It's an upside down Knave second edition rule book that is screen used on the Morning Grind. Well, screen used upside down Knave book here. So this book does have a lot of tables. I was noticing that just as you flip through, we got tons and tons of tables here. I mean, like, we are living in, like, it seems extremely cliche, but the golden age here of third-party RPGs. We were looking at this one around the same time as Shadow Dark, so we've got Shadow Dark Shadow Dark shipped. We've got Shadow Dark. We've got Knave second edition. Of course, we just had the DC 20 Kickstarter conclude to massive success. The MCDM Kickstarter, or it wasn't a Kickstarter, I think it was on BackerKit, but that one went. I want to follow that. I also saw an update from Mark on the Cool Name RPG. And I did see on, I believe it was my Facebook feed, that Lou Anders has gotten in Tales of the Valiant. So we started to look at Tales of the Valiant a little bit. It didn't really grab me, but I did notice that those books are in. Yes, Mike did run a Shadow Dark one-shot, and it was a hit. Lynn says, I once had a first edition AD&D player's handbook that had a handful of pages near the end out of order, but never an upside-down book. I think of all of the role-playing book, or just all the books that I have over here on the shelf, this is the first one that is that I've ever had actually in the case upside down. So, okay, so tables. Why is this book so many tables? I mean, it seems like just flipping through here, you can see that a large... I mean, didn't Shadow Dark also have a lot of tables in it? But it seems like a large part of this, the page count here. So I don't know, how many pages is this book? So what is the page count on this book? 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79. This is like an 80-page book. This is like an 80-page book. You know, come to think of it, because I was wondering, like, as I was doing the Cultist RPG, I was intending it to be... originally scope creep on everything, and I know that's going to be a problem with all my projects, but I was writing it as like a 48-page 6x9 book, which is what Fate Accelerated is. It would be something like this, but that in my laid out but not laid out version for playtest, which is ready to go out, ended up being 90 pages. So that means that it's actually, of course, it's a little bit larger. I formatted it to 6x9 pages for the PDF, the playtest PDF. And it's just kind of basically straight through. But that does mean that it's a little bit longer than this book, which does mean, should there be a hardback version of that? Like I said, this book is about the smallest that I would want to have a hardback in. I'm always thinking about things from the actual product perspective, since I've done the Kickstarters and run all that. Like, what actually is the product that's shipping? I often use Fate as an example because these books are hardback for Fate. This book is like 112 pages. And I think it's a reasonable hardback book. So yeah, it's a little bit, so it's a little bit thicker. The Fate book is. It's a little bit taller. So, yeah, who knows? Does that mean I need to look at potentially a hardback cultist book? I don't know. Oh, no, got to flip this one over. So why so many tables, though? A prominent feature of this book is the many random tables. These tables take nearly every aspect of fantasy fiction and break them into 100 examples, creating a kind of elements of fantasy the GMs can use to rapidly construct living, varied worlds to explore. The table's primary use is for session prep, but they can be used on the fly when the PCs wander off in an unexpected direction. Results can be selected at random by rolling D100, or the GM can just simply pick one they like. Some of the entries on these tables are other random tables. If one of these is rolled, flip to the table indicated and roll again. Okay. Or combine results. Okay, so yes, that, and I think that was the case with Shadow Dark as well. We went through a phase, and we're probably still in it, where people really like the random tables. Although, it's like, I wonder how different it is. Like, can Chat GPT? I need 100 different books, or 100 different types of clothing, or 100 different types of fabric. Of course, I mean, here it is for you in the book. Magic items, treasures, swords, no weapons, materials. Has anyone played this one? So game master duties and player duties. It's interesting. This is how this book starts. Of course, it looks like, the original Knave was not all that long. It was just a few pages. And so it looks like basically in the front of this, we're summarizing everything that is Knave. Its abilities are strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. So nothing different there. Checks, I guess this is like how are we playing this game? Checks, roll D20, add your ability score plus modifiers. In +5 or -5 increments from advantages, disadvantages, or careers. The total equals or exceeds 11 plus the task's difficulty, usually 5, then you succeed. Opposing ability scores and armor points can be used as a task's difficulty. If a creature doesn't have an ability score, substitute its level, half its level, or 0, GM's call. Oh, it says do not make knowledge checks. Oh, hey, good morning, Retro Nerd Girl. Retro says, good morning, everyone. Just listening in on this morning while doing chores. I got a lot of chores and cleaning to do today, too. Scene says, I couldn't see myself using paper tables randomization anymore. I'd rather use a phone or a custom GPT. This does specifically say, do not make knowledge checks. Have I done a video specifically on knowledge checks yet? I was also trying to get set up here when I was trying to, do I need a better camera in here for the live streaming and stuff like that. It's been a long time since I've made just straight YouTube videos. There, I'm just going to put on, make a note here. Video knowledge checks. I'm making a list of different potential videos that I could just, like 8-minute videos, but I need to get the camera set up so I can just turn on and do it. I used to have that set up. One of the reasons that I stopped doing just ordinary videos was because I upgraded something, and then the software that I used for all of that and had everything set up to just kind of easily do that stopped working. Something gets upgraded, something whatever, and so it's no longer compatible with something. So that's part of actually trying to get reset up here and just stuff. I was like, can I get this set back up so that I can make some just standard 8 or 9 minute YouTube videos? And doing one on knowledge checks would be a good idea because I am also against them. So knowledge checks. Okay, so let's see what he says here. He says, knowledge. Do not make knowledge checks. PCs know all common knowledge and career-related knowledge. All other knowledge must be sought out. Okay, well, that's rather straightforward. Do not make knowledge checks. Are people for upgrade? 4 knowledge checks against them? Well, you're talking about software. So I used to use Camtasia for just making general YouTube videos. And one of the issues was that when I changed something or something, all of my audio got out of sync. Like I could no longer use that software and have video synced with audio. It was crazy. So I'm actually thinking about now I've got different microphones set up, a different camera coming in. I got to swap that. Maybe it might not be the camera's problem, but I still think I can get a better camera. And then I might upgrade the Camtasia and see if I can get all that working again. And maybe by Sunday, I'm going to do a test running a Rumble Studio because I was trying to reevaluate everything. I was like, if I were starting this over, what would I do? Would I do all of this? Would I do this as I'm doing it again? And probably not. I was thinking about you trying out Rumble Studio for the live streams, at least the Morning Grind live streams, and going here and seeing if I can go on YouTube and on Rumble. And then if we do locals, which we've talked about for the coffee shop, we're doing the online role playing or just general tabletop gaming, then I could live stream, I think, into locals. That's an advantage of the locals platform is that people can members can post, which is important if you're going to be able to self-organize things, which you can't do that on Patreon. And Patreon also doesn't allow live streaming. One answer is just to not have the live streaming and the shows as part of the locals package. I've used OBS before, but on the other hand, so that would simplify things. But on the other hand, if it's got the capabilities to do a longer show in the morning for people who are on the locals platform, that's what I'm kind of thinking. But I got to run a software test on that. I have used OBS, and I have that set up here on the computer. To me, it was overkill for everything I was trying to do, and StreamYard worked very well for everything I was basically trying to do. But we'll see. Okay, so knowledge checks. There are no knowledge checks in here. Combat initiative. Make a charisma versus charisma check between the side's leaders to determine who acts first. On a side's turn, all of its creatures in any order may move and take one or another action, such as an attack, spellcasting, move, and maneuver. Everybody's got different ways to do initiative here. So this is charisma versus charisma. That might be the first time that I've seen that. I was told when we were taking a look at the initiative system in DC 20 that Pathfinder uses an initiative system where you base it off of whatever your character was doing. That still seems really weird to me. Attacks. Make a check using strength for melee attacks or wisdom for ranged attacks. So this is one of the ones that moves ranged attacks off of dexterity and instead puts it on wisdom. Versus defender's armor class, 11 plus armor points. On a 21 plus, the attacker may succeed at a free maneuver. On a natural 1, the weapon breaks. Careers never add bonuses to attacks or maneuvers. Lynn says, I'm still amazed at how strong the grip of the 6 original D&D stats is on the hobby. Yeah. But really, that's probably the effect of the open gaming license. The OGL. I mean, I would assume there was probably a lot more variety before the 3rd edition OGL. And SRD. I mean, now everybody uses them. But I mean, I'm for a reduction in these. If you had strength, dexterity, we talked about that when we were talking about Fated Edge. Strength, dexterity, health, intelligence, wisdom, and then charisma. I'm for generally smaller numbers of basic abilities. But yeah, I guess everybody knows them. Everybody uses them. Maneuvers include disarming, pushing, stunning, blinding, breaking gear, tripping, climbing, restraining. They can only cause damage indirectly and are resolved with an ability check. Ranged attacks cannot be made while attacker in melee. -5 if the target is. Sneak attacks always hit and deal direct damage. Attacks against defenseless foes automatically kill them. That's important. Attacks against defenseless foes automatically kill them. Power attacks. Declare a power attack before rolling damage to double the damage dice, but break the weapon. So weapons break a lot in this. On a natural 1, the weapon breaks. So every 1 in 20 swings, you're going to be expecting your weapon to break. What's a system that's actually effectively implemented weapon damage? I understand why. I mean, why we have these. I would like to think a lot about what's the purpose of this mechanic in the game anyway. What are we trying to do with weapon damage or weapon degradation or weapon breaking? Like, what's the purpose of that in the game? And also, particularly here, that it's a lot. On a natural 1, the weapon breaks. What are we trying to do with that? Why include that in the game? Like, we don't do that in, like, for instance, Hero Quest. Something like Hero Quest, we don't worry about, okay, you're never going to worry about, oh, your broadsword broke. I think that if you've got the mechanic in there, it's trying to do something. And I used to be much more simulationist. Like, we could probably simulate the wear and tear on weapons or equipment, and then eventually have to get it replaced. But what's the purpose in having a 1 in 20 chance the weapon breaks? Oh, look in the designer notes. Let's see. Mike says a lot of other games reskin the original stats with other names. Let's see. Designer's commentary. Okay, let's look at that. We do have, okay, so he does group this by topic. So this is interesting. So it says goals. We'll just start here and look at the top here. Goals. Knave began as a hack of basic D&D that I created for an after-school gaming club for 5th graders. The goal was to streamline and rationalize the rules so that players could learn the rules and create characters in just a few minutes and jump right into playing, which I'm all for. Be able to create a character and get playing in a few minutes. The game has expanded since then, but the goal is still at the forefront of design, a framework that makes playing old school RPGs straightforward, intuitive, easy to prep, and easy to run. Inspirations: The World of Darkness by John Harper, Into the Odd by Chris McDowell, and The Black Hack by David Black. Which we've looked at all of those, I believe. Actually, have we looked at World of Dungeons? Maybe, I don't remember that one. But I know we've looked at Into the Odd and, of course, The Black Hack. So random tables, much is often made of whether a game's rules are good, but in my view, the actual content of a game, the situations, locations, events, NPCs, etc., has a bigger effect on the experience than the mechanics. Knave's random tables, which expand upon the tables from my previous game, Maze Rats, aims to make creating game content a fast and even entertaining process that makes the world feel surprising and alive. I can't build the world for the GM, but I can at least provide them all the pieces to do so. Inspiration includes The Perilous Wilds by Jason Lutz. I don't know that one. And Augmented Reality by Paul Gallagher. I also do not know that one. Layout. Knave uses a control panel layout, which keeps most topics confined to a single page or 2-page spread. This reduces page flipping, makes it easier for GMs to print rules, references, and speeds up finding information, such as by Mothership by Sean McCoy and Old School Essentials by Gavin Norman. Okay, I hadn't thought too much about that particular design. Now, I know that's kind of the way that Shadow Dark does things, but I also know that like it seemed like when she was designing Shadow Dark, she was actually doing it in layout software. She was doing it in design. Looked like she was doing it in design. And so if you're doing that, it's like, okay, I got one page, I got a topic here, and I got to cover it in one page, or I got to cover it in a spread. A 2-page spread. So game master and player duty. We said, why does this game start with that? Well, it says clearly stating what the GMs and players do is something I first learned from games based on Vincent and Megui Baker's Apocalypse World. It's especially important when your game is geared towards a particular style of play, such as the OSR style. It lets the reader know right away whether the game is right for them and makes the rest of the book easier to comprehend. Item slots. It says item slots. PCs have 10 plus con item slots to record their gear. Most items, including groups of small items that could fit into one hand, take up one slot. Two-handed items take up 2 slots. 500 coins uses 1 full slot. Damage is subtracted from HP at 0 points. Each point of damage wounds an item slot from the highest to the lowest. Items in the wound slots are... Okay, that's an interesting wound way. You can't read the text on the screen. You know, that's one of the things I'm trying to upgrade here. So you can't read the text on the screen. I did turn on more light onto the situation. Yeah, great. GURPS has rules for breaking weapons, and I remember that. And of course, there's a lot more to it. You've got you had different quality weapons, right? And they would break in different. I don't remember all the weapon breakage rules. But what was the purpose of weapon breakage rules in GURPS? Well, I think the simulation was the purpose. In that style game, I think, okay, well, then simulating the wear and tear on your weaponry and your gear is part of the purpose. But what does that do from the game perspective? I'm not sure. DBJ says, combat is a last resort. Also, you are what you carry. Creative problem solving is an OSR mantra. In an adventure game, it is the point. And that's why I was thinking, like, what do my nephews want to do when we're playing? Well, what do they do in Hero Quest? They want to kill monsters and Dragon Strike. I got to go over and play with them again. But what do they do in Dragon Strike or Hero Quest? You want to kill monsters. Having your weapon break sucks. So we had a question about how does this define wisdom? It says wisdom is the ranger ability. Adds to ranged attacks and checks requiring perception and willpower like foraging, navigating, and resisting spells. Oh, so actually, it gives you each one of these stats is a different type of character. It says strength is the fighter ability. Dexterity is the thief ability. Constitution is the adventurer ability. It says important for every PC, adds to checks to resist poison, cold, etc. PCs have 10 plus con items and can take 10 plus con wounds before dying. Wisdom is the ranger ability. We said that. Charisma is the cleric ability. Added to checks that require force of personality like initiative and persuasion. Players can have a number of companions and patron blessings equal to their charisma. So it looks like he tried to make sure, but I thought that we were kind of classless here. I thought this was a classless kind of game, but we've got the abilities tied to particular types of characters. Because I don't think we have character classes, right? We will see. Let's well, let's Game Master. I'm not going to read all of these, but it says Game Master duties are create locations to explore, flesh out the supporting cast, let the players guide the action, keep the game moving, use common sense, make impartial and consistent rulings, immerse the players, reveal the world, signpost danger, reward smart plans, keep time records. Okay, if Sable Phoenix were here, he would call out the essential nature of keeping time records. And then edit the rules. Whereas the player's duties include assist the game master, show up on time, bring snacks, learn the rules, keep session notes, draw maps, and be ready for your turn. To create a character, play your character, take initiative, ask questions, apply tactical infinity, treat the game world as if it's real and work to turn every aspect of it to your advantage. When simulating a living world, no detail is simply flavor. Scheme, think laterally, not linearly. This means avoid risky plans that require you to roll dice, instead create plans to bulletproof that success is certain. Avoid risky plans that require you to roll dice and instead create plans to bulletproof, or create plans so bulletproof that success is certain. Use psychology, magic, allies, equipment, and the environment to overcome obstacles that rely on ability checks. Yeah, I said that's one of the things I'm working on. Also, because sometimes I see my connection going in and out. I'm working on that too. Steel Mongoose, welcome, Steel. Steel Mongoose says, I suppose weapon and armor damage creates potential for some meaningful professional abilities, but there are a lot of potential pitfalls. Oh, hey, PH. Good morning, PH. Yeah, because like in Diablo, in Diablo, the original Diablo, we had, the weapons would degrade. But I don't ever remember that ever being a really big deal. So you did damage weapons as you were going down, your armor would degrade. And that was, I believe, the warrior's special ability. That the special ability of the warrior is that the warrior could repair his weapons and armor while in the dungeon, although it would degrade, it would reduce the equipment's overall durability. It was called durability, wasn't it? Yeah. So you could go and you could repair all of your gear at the blacksmith shop in Diablo. Like each weapon had like a like durability points. It was like, had like 80 durability points or something. And if you repaired at the blacksmith, if you had 17 of your 80 durability points remaining, you could refill it to 80. But the warrior could repair in the field. But if he did that, your item would all of a sudden have a max of like 76 or something. So that's one of those things that sounds good. Hey, all right, so we want to represent wear and tear on gear. Well, especially in a video game, you can have that kind of thing, happen in the background. I only remember that sometimes I would have it appear on screen that, okay, my weapon is getting low in durability or something, because that was just always a stop you made. I guess it had the effect of sapping a little bit of gold from you, because you would have to make that. It took time. You had to walk down to the blacksmith and click repair all. Okay, and you click repair all. It takes some money from you, but that really is more just like a money sink, right? Like, but not even all that big a one. It wasn't all that big a deal. I don't think that I ever even used the warrior's repair in the middle of the, in the dungeon ability anyway. It just wasn't something that came up or mattered. So that would be what I would be talking about. Like, yeah, that gives, but to me, that would be a bad implementation. Like, so Diablo's was a bad implementation. That it tried to do something, but didn't have the effect. It didn't have that effect. Thank you, Mike. That's exactly what Sable would be here. You cannot have a meaningful campaign if strict time records are not kept. Thank you. Sable Phoenix would be proud. Lynn says, I'm not a fan of GURPS combat because it's way too simulationist for my taste. Sometime I'm gonna have to play some, just for the sake of playing the combat. Scene says Knave is supposed to tax resources slots, right? Maybe just so you were incentivized to double up on weapons, take up slots, and tax the player's time, energy, resources. That could be it. That could be it. So we are working with item slots here. We've got the PCs have 10 plus item slots. Most items take up one slot. And it's not like you're going to know that your weapon is being degraded. It's all of a sudden just going to be gone with one. So does it want to force you to go and take a backup weapon? Like, okay, now I've got to move to my dagger. So it does seem like you need to have a backup weapon. And maybe a backup to your backup. And those are taking item slots. Didn't we determine, like, I did make the Knave character creator for I think the first edition, when I was using ChatGPT to try to create a Python character creator, and it actually worked. I never got it implemented so that it could be like included in like Discord or something. I was trying that, but that never worked. But I did get the Python to work, and it seemed like, I believe this is the original Knave. It just seemed like you did not have that many slots. And so if that's true, like if you need to use 3 of your slots for weapons, A main weapon, a backup weapon, and a tertiary weapon. Maybe that's it, because it seems like just rolling a one, but maybe you're taking the weapons of bad guys and things like that. Okay, but anyway, this specifically says you're not supposed to roll dice. One of your player duties is to scheme so that your plans are certain and you are not rolling dice. And it also says fight dirty. Try to win fights before they begin by rigging the situation in your favor and avoid conflicts where you don't have the upper hand. Combat in Knave is neither balanced nor fair, so assume that your character's life is at stake anytime swords are drawn. Prepare to die. So one of your duties is to prepare to die. Embrace your PC's death when it happens and roll up a new character to take their place. Losing a PC can be painful, but it makes for great stories. Lets you try out new character concepts you can thrust into the party into unexpected situations. Remember that ultimately an RPG campaign tells the story of the whole world, not a single character or even a single party. As the campaign continues, it's enriched by the stories the characters that came before. So the PCs have 6 abilities with scores rated from 0 to 10. Oh, yeah. Okay, I like this. So Mike says, I guess the question that's base, does item degradation result in meaningful choices? Right. Yeah, that's what I love that. Like, does this thing that I'm adding into the game result in the characters having to make a meaningful choice or not? Arguably, in the original Diablo, I never made a meaningful choice because my weapon was degraded. In this, the knowledge that if I roll a 1 on my attack check, of course, this is telling you to not roll dice. And one of the reasons you might not want to roll dice is because if that happens, my weapon may break. Where was I going with that? Oh, but anyway, yes. So what kind of meaningful choice am I making knowing that if I roll a 1? Maybe that's it. Maybe that's one of the things like, gee, it says specifically in this game, you are supposed to avoid risky plans that require you to roll dice. So you're supposed to avoid the rolling of dice as a player. That's one of your duties that says as the player. So in that case, okay, I get it. It's adding risk into the roll of the dice. Are we really trying to simulate a weapon breakage of 1 in 20? Maybe it's saying, well, we're simulating that or adding that risk in when you have to roll dice, because if you can come up with a plan that does not require the roll of the dice, then your weapon is not in danger of breaking. So maybe that's it. Increase in randoms, like we're talking about of ships in the sea, how ridiculously likely it was that your ship is going to be blown off course and you're going to be gone forever. Which is not like, if it were that bad, no one would ever sail in a ship. If you have to make that roll every time, then you're going to be, just lost and your ship is going to sink a ridiculously frequent number of times, right? But if the game is built that if you properly plan your voyage, you never have to actually roll on that table. It's only telling you that your ship would sink or your weapon would break in a situation that is inherently risky that you didn't properly plan for, right? Steele says, if it's just a realism mechanic that punishes marshals, I'd probably just draw a line through it. Oh, hey, there's James. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So this does say, I remember this having a way to do hit points or do the ability scores that I didn't understand. It says, distribute 3 points between your PC's ability scores. More than 1 point can be placed in the same score. It just says distribute 3 points between your PC's ability scores, which are your classic 7, classic 6, strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And you get 3 points. or let fate decide by rolling 3d6 with each die adding 1 to the ability score matching the number rolled. I think that is a different way of wording that because I did not understand how that was originally. So, for example, that says if you roll a 3-5-5, means that Con, the third ability, is 1, and Wisdom, the fifth ability, is 2. All of the other abilities have a score of 0. Record secondary stats. So you don't have nobody is starting off with any kind of huge stats. Everybody gets 3 points to distribute. So that means that at the beginning of the game, your number of items can be carried. That's based on Constitution, be 13. You'd have 13 item slots. So that is really making you make a choice. Well, okay, here's the question as we go on, because you know that I'm not real big on the D20 plus modifier, especially when the modifiers are small. And we know that most of the time that in 4 of these, in 3 of these, I don't know why I keep thinking there's 7 stats, but in 3 of these, you're going to have a 0. So when it talks about making a check by rolling a D20 plus your ability score modifier, that's going to be 0 or at most 3 when you're starting the game. But then again, you also have to remember this game specifically tells you to avoid rolling dice. So record secondary stats. PCs start level 1 with 0 XP. They have 10 plus Constitution item slots and start with D6 maximum hit points. So you roll D6. You roll D6 for hit points. A very random kind of number of hit points. I do have on my list the alternate list of potential videos, the list of alternate or the alternate rolling for HP system that we designed. Record careers. Roll or pick 2 careers from the list on the next page. You gain those careers items as well as any of the following that you can carry. 3d6 times 10 coins, 2 rations, a 50-foot rope, 2 torches, any armor pieces or weapons, and a quiver of 20 arrows. If the PCs has points in int, they may receive a random spell book for each point. So we got D100 over here. So we've got things like Arcanist, Officer, Charlatan, Priest. You pick 2 of them. So you could be a Falconer, Pilgrim, or a Singer, Coachman, or a rat catcher cook. Okay, what if you were a rat catcher cook? You'd get a cage, 10 rat traps, a sack, a frying pan, salt, and olive oil. Okay. I think we talked about random equipment in this as well. In the original incarnation of this game, didn't you just get some random equipment? Like, what do you do with all this, like, just random stuff? Like, okay, I got, a balls, tweezers, didn't I say something about cabbage or something over here? Okay. And maybe these are a wig, perfume, some fungi. Armor class you have, but this also does start you out with a basic package. 3d6 times 10 coins, 2 rations, 50-foot rope, 2 torches, and any armor worn. And your armor class is equal, or your armor points is equal to your armor class, which is AP plus 11. Leveling up's getting you HP here. I remember thinking that I thought that the second edition of Knave went in a different direction than I thought it was going to go based on the first edition. So it says slots. Each PC has 10 plus con items used to record their gear. Most items, including groups of small items that can fit in one, take up 1 slot. We read that. But it says damage a PC receives is subtracted from their HP. Once their HP reaches 0, each point of damage fills an item slot with an appropriate wound, stabbed, frozen, burned, etc., from the highest slot to the lowest. Items in the wounded slot must be dropped. I still think that's weird. What do other people think about that? And it says, okay, it also says from the highest slot to the lowest. And I don't really know what that means at the moment. So it makes me say, let me check this. the character sheet. I thought I saw a character sheet back here. Okay, here's a character shot. Character sheet. So here's the character sheet. I do like the size of the character sheet. You know, I'm big on this kind of half-page character sheet. I think that's all you really need. Name, careers, AC, armor points, your level, your XP, your maximum HP, your current HP. A big place to draw your character right here. Record your strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And then we got item slots. 1 to 20. So what does that mean? So a standard character would have 10. You could have up to 13 if you put 3 points in Constitution, which Constitution says is your basic adventurer ability. Checks to resist poison, cold, etc. And also you can take 10. I mean, so Constitution is important. But what does that mean? Once their HP reaches 0, each item point fills an item slot with an appropriate wound, stabbed, frozen, burned, etc., from the highest slot to the lowest. Does highest slot mean on the character sheet? I actually thought that, okay, that was actually going to be on the character sheet. Does that mean 1 or 13? If I have 13, well, let's say if I have 10. If I have 10 item slots, does that mean that my highest slot, does it say highest? From the highest slot, is the highest slot 1? So you should also think about it. So Ryan says that it means that slot 10. So the highest slot is the one that's lowest on the character sheet. That slot 10 is wounded before slot 9. So I don't go 1, 2, I don't add wounds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I add wounds 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. So that means there is strategy to how you have your gear. Because if you're in a fight and you're taking damage, you wouldn't want to drop your weapon or your armor. So if you're supposed to fill in slot 10 first, then it seems like armor and weapons should go in slots 1, 2, and 3. And you should prioritize your gear according to slot, which that I haven't really seen in other games. I like item slots. I think that is a good way of good compromise between having unlimited inventory and having to track things pound by pound or ounce by ounce, which generally I am done with. But this is also tying damage to your slots and also making you think about how your equipment is going to be organized on your character sheet. But does it ever explicitly tell you that like one of the things you need to do is manage the way your equipment is in your equipment slots? Lynn says this follows the modern trend of eliminating abstract numbers for stats that do not have to be translated into mods for actual play, which I am for that. I'm for that. Yes. That there's no reason to have a 16 in some stat if that becomes a +3 or something, right? For all practical purposes. Somebody did, on Reddit, actually, I did see that somebody had this big list of things. It was like, what does the character stats in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons actually impact? And it was a long list, but it was not anything that I would have thought of. It was all special cases and arbitrary things, which to me is not terribly great game design. Mike says, it seems odd to me to drop items from damage over HP. So Runehammer's new game, Crown and Skulls, does this. I don't think we've looked at Crown and Skulls. We need to do that. See, yeah, so that you've got, I mean, I don't know how I feel about that. It's one of those things, I've never played a system like that. It says direct damage. Direct damage bypasses HP and adds wounds directly. This occurs in situations where a creature's combat skills would not protect them when they are falling or attacked unawares. Monsters receive triple damage from direct damage since they do not have item slots. Death. A PC dies when all their slots are filled with wounds. Creatures without slots, like monsters, simply die at 0 HP. Healing. A PC's HP returns to maximum each morning, so long as they slept for 2 watches and ate a meal the night before. If they are in a safe haven, they also heal 1 wound. So wounds are not going to be healing unless you are in a safe haven. I guess that's what that means. It says that is, if they're in a safe haven, they heal 1 wound. I guess that's it. PCs are awarded 1 XP for each coin worth of treasure recovered from a remote, dangerous location like a dungeon and returned to civilization. Split evenly between all PCs who assisted. If you are using a pre-made dungeon or another RPG that uses copper, silver, electrum, gold, and platinum coins, then convert the total to gold coins and gain that much XP. At certain XP levels, you gain a level. So this is all about recovering gold. You gain XP by recovering gold and bringing it home. Oh, Bacon says, I have the Crown and Skull quick start rules. I should go through them. PH says, dropping items serves the fantasy if you're getting wounded and not being able to hold on to your items anymore. Right. But like if you've got a bunch of items in your backpack and you get hit, why does one thing fall out of your backpack? Yeah, it sounds like you need to number your item slots and keep, yes, and the item slots are numbered on that character sheet. You may not have been able to see it, but they are numbered on that character sheet. And you need to keep track of the number of your item slots and keep track of what equipment is in what slot for the purposes of knowing which one you drop when wounded. Right, yes. Still Mongoose says, so when a character dies, he can't be buried with his arms and armor. It does suggest that everyone dies naked. So at certain XP thresholds, PCs gain a level, which adds 1 to 3 different ability scores. Okay, so when you gain a level, you add 1 to 3 different ability scores. Do not reset XP to 0. The 3 scores can be picked by the player or chosen randomly. Each level also allows the player to re-roll their PC's HP maximum, which HP PH Arbex was just talking about that. So this isn't a constant increase. It's not 1d6, 2d6, 3d6 like the HP table suggests here. It says, do not reset HP to 0. The 3 scores can be picked by the player or chosen randomly. Each level also allows the player to re-roll their PC's HP maximum using 1 additional d6. If the roll total is not greater than their last maximum, add 1 to the last maximum. Okay, so if it is, it's not okay. So you're always gonna go up by 1, but this does seem to imply then that if I rolled 1d6 and I had a 3, and then I go up in a level and I roll a 12 on 2d6, it seems like I would have 12 hit points. But if I rolled a 2 with my 2d6, then I would have 4 HP. So that you could potentially jump up here. So 10d6, I mean, that would be, what, 60 hit points? So you could have as many as 60 hit points. I do like the idea that you might start with less, like when we are trying to figure out, to calibrate combat and all of that. Like how many points of damage, if you're using points of damage, can a character take maximally? But your character may not have that maximal number, and as they level up, they may get closer to that maximal number. That I don't necessarily mind. This does have a lot of potential to have a lot of HP. So, yeah, Lynn says, yeah, I'm not liking the way this hardwires wounds and item slots together. It's odd that we've got HP, which it's almost like a wounds vitality system. You know, the Star Trek, in the Star Wars, one of the Star Wars games used wounds vitality system that we used to play, and that was an optional rule in D&D 3rd edition. It was based on 3rd edition. And that's kind of what we've got here. Like, okay, you're not really getting damaged with your XP. Your XP are Just your HP are being flaked off. They're ablative. Hang on. There we go. But so you're not actually taking. So you don't actually have to consider yourself taking damage up here when you're doing your HP. Here you're actually writing down some type of wound. Maybe there's spells or something that can relieve wounds, because it seems like getting wounded, yeah, sucks. I mean, this game seems to be mainly about managing your item slots. You're really gonna have to manage your item slots. DBJ says no easy buttons in Knave. A PC may drop an item that otherwise solves the situation. Creative problem solving, overrolling dice in combat. Yes, I think that's a really important design philosophy. That I'm glad. Why I'm glad we went ahead and read that. That as far as your players' duties, you are not supposed to be rolling dice if you can help it. I think that's the intent. What you roll is what you have, unless you get less than what you have. Yeah, I think so too. You may think that HP as it used to be. This is more your ability to avoid damage. The wounds are the actual damage. Right, yes. HP is you got attacked, but you didn't actually get hit. Something happened. Let's see. We do have some lore checks. It says don't make. It says knowledge. It was called knowledge over here, but lore over here. Don't roll knowledge checks. Traveling. Travel speed. PCs can move 1 6-mile hex per watch up to 3 times per day. It says while traveling, days are divided into 6 4-hour watches, 3 for day, 3 for night. Most major actions take 1 watch to complete. I do like rules for this, like hex travel. Like when we go out to this level, a PC can move 1 6-mile hex per watch up to 3 times per day. Each watch they travel after the third deals at 1 direct damage to each PC unless they succeed a con check. Speed is halved in darkness, difficult terrain, or severe weather, and doubled while riding. Navigation. If the terrain or weather while traveling is disorienting, the GM may require a wisdom check for the party's leader to see if they move to a random adjacent hex. Okay. Exploring. The party can spend a watch exploring the area of a 6-mile hex to reveal any area of interest, such as an overgrown hill, hidden pool, etc., that wouldn't have been noticed by passing through. Secret features such as buried treasure or hidden floor in a mountain or hidden door in a mountain should have corresponding clues revealed by exploring the hex. They only be found by the PCs interacting with the game world. Finding food takes a watch and requires passing a wisdom check with the modifier for wisdom, terrain, etc. On a success, the PC collects D6 rations. The travel hazard die at the end of each watch. At the end of each watch, roll the travel hazard die and apply the result. 1 is an encounter. 2 is fatigue. Each party member takes 1 damage unless they spend the next watch resting. Damage may be higher in severe weather or difficult terrain. 3 is depletion. Roll a D6 for each perishable item, rations, monster parts, etc. On a 1, that item has gone bad. Travel shift. The weather changes or a local event begins. A sign. A players find a sign that a random encounter is nearby. And a 6 is no effect. That means things are going to happen. At the end of each watch, roll the travel hazard die and apply the result. That's a lot, isn't it? Only on the roll of a 6 is it free and has no effect. But otherwise, days are divided into 6 4-hour watches. That means you're going to be rolling this D6 6 times a day? That's a lot. I mean, that seems like a lot to me. That seems like a lot. Now, of course, it's one of those things like, okay, we're going to roll the die a lot, but most of the time that nothing's going to happen. Is that good game design? Because you could have like only on a 1 something happens or something. But okay, but you could say, okay, we're going to roll a lot, but most of the time that's not going to happen. But here you are rolling 6 times a day. And 5 out of 6 times something happens. You're going to spend a lot. You're spending a lot of time adjudicating days. That's a lot. I'd like to see that in action. We do have weather table because we got the weather shift down here. Changing the weather. At the start of the game, roll in the weather table below or the one that you've created to fit your setting. The travel shifts table is useful for this. Reroll whenever a 4 is rolled on the travel hazard die. Rain, everything gets soaked. Limited visibility. Drowns out sound. Creates mud. May cause flooding, landslides. Hail, reduces visibility, distorts, slows movement. Lightning, wind, fog, snow, temperature. Hot and cold weather can increase fatigue damage to unprepared PCs. Rolling 2d6. Travel shifts. Travel shifts. Travel shift. We got D100 over here. Mud flow, overcast. Dense fog, disaster, rain effect. Food rain. What is food rain? So this is one of the, some of these are the italics, which means I'm supposed to roll on another table. What is food rain? 49? Like I'm supposed to roll rat or salmon or peas and it rains that? Hey, good morning, Andrew. Good morning. PH says, I like that it has simple, specific, and very straightforward rules. Now that I'm for. But so the meaningful choice here is to travel or not? And it seems like often not. Okay, so these are all of our tables for that. Signs, locations. Like what is like food rain? Does that make sense? Color sky, page 37. The color, the sky changes to saffron, to a shocking pink, changes to ultramarine, or eggshell, or champagne. Okay. Disaster. We get a disaster table on page 31. Acid rain. No stars. Mass hysteria. Mass insanity. Sign structures. Place traits. Delving. Steele says, I'm just wild about saffron. Bacon says, I think there's a whiff of a good idea in accounting for character health with item slots. I just don't think it's well realized here. Malls Ritter did it better with a physical inventory. Yes, and I thought about that earlier, that Malls Ritter does that. Malls Ritter has that, and we loved that. Well, there was so much good in Malls Ritter, and it used damage as used inventory slots for damage as well, and it was much better. That one I understood. I remember understanding what was going on with Malls Ritter. I also don't think you completely filled up or something like that. The watches are specified. It says traveling while watching, days are divided into 6 4-hour watches. So a watch is 4 hours, which is why we got 6 of them per day. While dungeon delving, time is tracked in 10-minute segments called turns. Most actions take 1 turn, so 10 minutes. And at the end of each turn, roll the dungeon hazard die and apply the result. Once again, so you're rolling every 10 minutes. 1, encounter. 2, fatigue. So if you roll a 1, encounter, the party has an encounter, usually rolled from a table designed for the dungeon. The GM determines the encounter's reaction, activity, distance to the party, and if they are surprised. 2, fatigue. Each party member takes 1 damage unless they spend the next turn resting. The damage may be higher in dungeons with hearth conditions. Ignore this result while resting. So I do wonder about the fatigue one. Okay, so fatigue. Each party member takes 1 damage unless they spend the next turn resting. That's only 10 minutes. Sounds like you would not take the damage. Based on what we were talking about in this game, it sounds like you would not take the damage. Oh, I will definitely spend the next 10 minutes resting. Does that matter, though? Like, because if that's not a meaningful choice, we're talking about meaningful choices. is that a meaningful choice as to whether or not to rest? Because we talk a lot about time potentially being underused in RPGs and a lot of RPGs. So if time is underused and you're on the clock, well, then you're like, no, we got to take the damage because we're on the clock here. And it's more dangerous for us to spend the time than it is for us to take the damage. But if time isn't a factor, then here with fatigue, when you're doing delving, is also when you're doing traveling, just doesn't matter. 3 is burn. Lit torches burn out. New torches can be lit from the embers of the previous ones. 4 is delve shift. The dungeon environment changes. If a dungeon doesn't have any obvious shifts, use minor effects like sounds, temperature shifts, wind, falling debris. You find a sign that a random encounter is not nearby, and 6 is no effect. I mean, so there's a lot, again, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in here. Well, okay, okay, it does not say direct damage. I mean, that's a good point. Okay, so damage. Each party takes 1 damage. So maybe that does come off your HP. If it comes off your HP, then that's fine. Yeah, okay, so we got damage and we got direct damage. Okay, so that's not taking a wound. Okay. Because damage subtracted from your HP. So if you have HP, then damage is subtracted from the HP. So that does make it a little bit better. Okay, fatigue. Everybody takes 1 damage. Subtract from your HP. Unless you spend 10 minutes resting. I guess if you're not on the clock, then why would you take it? But if your clock matters, then you might, okay, we got to keep moving on here. Everybody increment your HP down by 1. And then later, okay, we can't do that anymore because if we don't rest, we're going to be taking wounds. So that's what's going on here. So so you're right. Both of these are whittling down HP. See, Kane 2 Pronto random ideas. It has entries like the color of the sky. And the GM thinks about what that means and goes with it. It's an improvisation exercise. Yeah. So like, okay, the sky just turned hot pink. So you're not gaming in a particular world. Like, this is like, what caused that, right? But you improvise. Okay, the sky turned hot pink. Does that matter? Yeah, it's what I rolled. So what does that matter? Let's think of something. Crawling speeds, walking speeds, candles reveal general shapes within 20 feet and details within 5 feet. They last for 8 hours, and a whole dungeon crawling expedition. 10 candles fill a slot. Torches reveal general shapes within 40 feet and details within 10. The brightness of torches let the party search the areas faster, but they will take a whole slot and burn out when the 3 is rolled in the dungeon hazard die. So searching. 1 turn spent searching in a room reveals any non-obvious features, a statuette inside a drawer, a cracked tile, etc., as well as any clues to secrets. In dim light, like candles or lantern light, this takes 2 turns instead. I do like that. I'm going to make note of that. The amount of light you've got as far as to how much time it actually takes to search something. I do like that. Tables for delve shifts, rooms, dungeon details, room themes, dungeons, trap effects, hazards, mechanisms. Encounters. NPC reactions. Kill the PCs. Just because you have an encounter doesn't necessarily mean you're fighting. Kill the PCs. NPC reaction could be kill them, injure, capture them, harass them, insult them, avoid them, ignore them, share information, ask to join the PC's party. So that does not necessarily mean when you're dungeon diving every 10 minutes you're going to have something that's going to try to kill you. That does not have to be the case. Combat. So I think we talked about some of this when we were looking at the very beginning here. Hazards include, okay, like fire or drowning. PCs can hold their breath for 30 seconds plus 30 seconds for each point of con. After this, they pass out and must pass a con check for every round or die. How do you cast spells? A spell book takes up an item slot and contains a single spell. A spell book takes up an item slot and contains a single spell. They cannot be created or copied by PCs and must be found while exploring dungeons or stolen from magic users. Casting a spell takes one action. Each spell book can only be used once per day, but PCs can use a number of spell books per day equal to their intelligence. Spells. 100 spells are included on page 22 and to 25. So here are all of our spells. The 100 different kinds of spells, that was part of the original Knave as well. I don't remember in the original Knave having the dungeon, having the wounds and influence your gear. Does damage mean so I think that meant HP. So damage goes to HP first. Time is a resource. Do you waste time? Not smart if danger is a constant threat. The idea is to acquire new items to replace used, broken, dropped objects. Eternal creative problem-solving loop. Does this say anything about like that the GM's responsibility? Well, it does say the GM's responsibility over here is keeping time records. Time is a resource for players, and wasting it should have consequences. How many resources do they have? What are their NPCs and factions up to when the players are adventuring? What threats are advancing? So this game, that seems like something that's really putting on the game master. That the game master has to come up with why you're under time pressure. Because the game, that's the responsibility of the game master. It doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like we're doing much. Well, I mean, I guess we kind of are, because okay, every 10 minutes you got to make this roll. Or every watch when you're traveling. You got to make this roll, and that stuff can be happening to you. But that's the responsibility of the game master here to make sure that time is meaningful. And we talked about how oftentimes that doesn't happen. Then if it's not happening here, then games seem to be better for it, in my opinion. If you're always putting the players on a clock. Sleep deprivation, intoxication. Oh, we were talking about spell casting. Yeah. We do have chaos spell books down here. Okay, spells. 100 spells are included. When int appears in the descriptions, replace it with any number up to the caster's int. This number counts as the spell's level if one is needed. An item is an object able to be lifted with one hand, and an object is anything up to human size. Unless otherwise noted, all spells with ongoing effects last 10 minutes and have a range of 40 feet. Chaos spellbooks. These spellbooks replace their spell with a random new one at the first dawn after the previous spell was cast. These spells can be rolled from the spell list or randomly generated. So we're not rolling to cast. One action to cast. Each spellbook can be used once per day, but you can use the number of spellbooks equal to your int. So if you have a 0 there, you're not casting. If you want to be a caster, you need to have at least a 1 in intelligence. And you get your 1 spell in that case, right? Generating new spells. The GM can use the spell formula table below to generate new spell books or to create new spells for chaos spell books. Once a formula is rolled, replace each bracketed word with the result from the matching table on the following pages to create the spell's name. The GM and players can then work together to determine its effects. So if a 10 was rolled, the formula would be for the spell's name, quality, element, form. Replacing the words with random from the table might generate Astrowind's iridescent tears circle. The player adjusts this to Astrowind's iridescent circle of tears and suggests this creates a shimmering circle on the ground that causes anyone within it to begin weeping uncontrollably. The GM agrees and clarifies the circle is int times 10 feet wide, and the creatures with it must pass a wisdom check each round or take a -5 penalty to all checks that round. Creatures that cannot cry will not be affected. I don't think I've ever seen spells done like this. We've got, in the Diablo style, I've seen items done like this. Spell formula could be like wizard's name, quality, element, form. Or wizard's name, quality, effect, form. Or the quality, effect, form. So we've got that. Qualities, effects, elements, and forms. Mutations, delusions, disasters, magic schools. Relic magic. Let's see. I kind of want to look at the comment. We've been going for a while here. I kind of want to look more at the commentary. Let's look at alchemy for just a second. Potions allow the drinker to produce a single significant magical effect. If the effect is ongoing, like invisibility, it lasts for 1 10-minute turn. Weak ongoing effects may last for an hour or even a day if they're very weak. A drop of the potion gives a clue as to its effect. Brewing a potion requires a fire, a cauldron, ingredients, and 4 hours, 1 watch of time. The player describes the effect, the duration of the potion they're trying to make, along with the ingredients to be used. Usually monster parts, but in theory, any rare substance with the right properties could be used. If the GM approves this effect, the GM makes an int check. The PC adds +5 to the check if they spend on additional watch. If the PC adds a +5 to the check if they spend another watch. The parts are lost regardless. Magical plants can be used for potions, but they usually grow in dangerous or lost locations. Most potions are made from the organs of monsters that give them the special abilities, such as a dragon's lung, fire breathing, or a dragon's scales, fireproofing. Harvesting a monster part requires 1 10-minute turn and the proper tools. Harvested body parts take up at least one item slot due to packaging of fluids they must be preserved in. Textures, taste, colors, ingredients. Lists of equipment. Buildings. We have a little bit on warfare, city themes, city events, food. Working in downtime, recruiting mercenaries. A bestiary back here. We were talking about, how are we rolling for damage? Hits deal damage equal to a roll of the weapon's damage die. If an enemy is weak to the type of damage being dealt, it deals direct damage. If they are immune to this type, it deals no damage. Did we see that someplace? Buildings. Equipment, coinage, common items, rare items, melee weapon, one-handed weapons. A one-handed weapon does 1d6 damage. A two-handed weapon does d8 damage. That takes up 2 slots. So there we go. Because it said over here, according to your weapon type, but there's only 2. It's either d6 or 2d6. That's what you got. One-handed 2d6. One-handed d6, two-handed d8. D8. So D6 or D8 damage. But I guess someplace it tells you something about damage types. Slashing, stabbing, something like that. Bacon says this game has a very Diablo feel to it in general. Yes. PH says, I just love this magic mechanic. It's not for every RPG system, but I think it really suits that kind of crawler. I mean, there was I really wanted to really love Knave too, because I did really enjoy that first Knave that we looked at. I really enjoyed it, and I really wanted to love this one. It made some decisions that I kind of question, but I would still try it. Mike says, I'm not sure that a two-handed weapon is worth it. Two-handed weapons, they cost double the amount. $50 coins versus 100 coins. And you're going to need you're going to need some kind of backup weapon too. Missile weapons, slings, one-handed, they do D4 damage. Bows, two-handed, 2 slots, D6 damage. Quivers hold 20 arrows. Armor. Okay, PCs can wear up to 7 armor pieces. Each one uses 1 slot and grants 1 HP. So it's kind of build your own armor here. Okay, so this is interesting. So each one, you can wear up to 7 pieces of armor, which if you're wearing armor, you're not going to be carrying around a whole lot else. And remember, you got to get gold out in order to level up. PCs wear up to 7 pieces of armor, and each grants 1 armor point for a max of 7 AP or an 18 armor class. A shield, 100 coins, a helmet, 100 coins, a gambeson, 100 coins, a mail shirt, 200 coins, a breastplate, 500 coins, arm plate, and leg plate. So it's just how much gold do you have? Okay, the arm plate and the leg plate, that's most expensive. Well, no, that's the same cost as a breastplate. Shield is 100 coins, helmet's 100 coins, gambeson's 100 coins, a mail shirt is 200 coins. Each one of those uses 1 slot, and you can wear it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, and there are 8 kinds of armor. Okay, because shield. So you could be completely armored. You should only have up to 7 slots. You could be wearing a helmet, gambeson, mail shirt, breastplate, arm plate, and leg plate, and be using a 2-handed weapon. So like a halberd or something. If you wanted to be the fully armored character with a halberd. But see, that right there, that's basically all you're doing. That would be 7 slots plus 2 for your halberd, because that's double-handed. So that's 9 slots right there. And you may only have 10 to 13 in the beginning. Now, you may get more if you're a higher level character and you're putting more into Constitution. You're not carrying around other things. So if you're at the low level, if you're the fully armored guy, that's basically all you're doing. Now, it does say you're going to have to transport. The crew requirements listed are not included in the price. So transport, like, okay, I need a cart has 200 slots. A mule has 50 slots. A riding horse has 80 slots. Yeah, it's just coins. It's just coins. It's said that if you're playing a game that uses different metals of coins, just convert it all to gold coins and use that as your coins. Nope. No. Well, it only referenced that in terms of saying if you're playing some other adventure that uses those different types of metal coins, just convert them all to gold coins. Buildings, warfare, tables here. Recruiting mercenaries, downtime. Tables for them. Okay, monsters. We looked at them. Okay, so we got some bestiaries here. So like a skeleton is AC 12, HP 4, level 1, attack with some one-handed weapon for D6, a move of 20 feet, a morale of 12, number appearing 3d4, undead, silent, immune to mental spells and piercing damage, gleeful. I want to look at the designer's commentary before we go. So that's basically, we did basically an overview of the complete thing. But since we're talking about game design, let's talk a little bit about. I got a little bit of time here. Let's talk about the designer's commentary. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to run to the restroom for just 1 second.
Oh, it's time for a Yeti hug break. Yeti hug break. Yeti hug break. Everybody go hug yo Yeti and show yo Yeti some love.
All right, thanks for hanging with me. let's definitely take a look at the designer's commentary and see what we think about that. Maybe he's got some insight into the decisions that he made, especially the relationship between wounds and the item slots and things like that. Let's see what that's all about. Okay, ability scores. Knave's ability scores are an intuitive 0 to 10 scale rather than the traditional 3 to 18, starting out with 0 to 3. Since ability scores are added, oh hey, RPG Exile. No, right, no, I'm right. Being the devil's advocate here, I don't think this is that's a problem here. PH says being the devil's advocate here, soldier fully armored didn't used to carry much more than their armor and weapons anyway. I'm not saying that doesn't make sense. Like if you're going to be, if you were talking about like a Milanese plate armor with a halberd, that's pretty much what you're carrying. But you can't expect. So I mean, I don't have a problem with that. Just what's the player going to be expecting? That your weapons and armor use that up fast, especially if you. I guess that was 9. And if you want to have a backup weapon, which we said that was probably a good idea, that would be 10 slots right there. And you've got it. So that's why I actually went to look at the Beasts of Burden, because you need those. You would get decked out to go into battle, which also, that maybe that does make sense that, okay, we're taking this mule with us. We got our armor here, and then we're going to go into the dungeon fully loaded up, armed and armored, clear this thing out. And then once we're done, we'll come back out. We'll take off all of our armor, and then we'll load up with gold coins and get out of here. Take them out of here. So it says Knave's ability scores are an intuitive 0 to 10 scale rather than traditional 3 to 18, starting out at 0 to 3. Since ability scores are added to a 2d20 and are usually trying to hit a target number of 16, this means that a PC's chance of success starts at 25 to 40% at low levels, increasing by 5% per level if that ability is improved. This is very close to the improvement rate of saving throws and attack bonuses for human characters in most old-school RPGs. Since ability scores can be turned into target numbers just by adding 11, all checks are reversible, allowing either side to do the rolling without changing the odds of success. This lets the game be played with only the players doing the rolling if that's the group's preference. Inspirations include Shadow of the Demon Lord and Symbaroum. So, I mean, this is also, this game is going to be very random at the beginning levels, right? Because you're only adding a +1 to a +3, and you're rolling a 20-sided dice, and we've talked about that a 20-sided die, and we've talked about that to death. But you're not supposed to be rolling. If you're rolling something, then you're doing something wrong, right? Or you're not playing optimally. Classlessness. Knave has no classes, meaning players are determined their PC's niche by abilities they improve and gear they carry. Each ability is linked to a fantasy archetype, like strength for fighters or intelligence for wizards. So, as players allocate points, they are effectively designing their own unique multi-class. I've tried to make each ability score as useful as possible to avoid there being an obvious dump stat. Inspirations include Into the Odd by Chris McDowell and GURPS by Steve Jackson. GURPS is classless. So by putting stats, putting things in different putting points in different stats, you're effectively multi-classing. Yes. And so that becomes why, right? PH says, with old school mentality, you should hire people to carry things for you. Also mules and carts. Yes. And so that would be also why charisma is important, because charisma tells you how many followers you can have. Mercenaries and torch bearers and all of that. Careers are a quick way of giving players a background in a starting loadout without having to do a lot of shopping. Note that although PCs can start the game with expensive armor pieces if they wish, the resale value of these pieces would be very small, since armor has to be precisely tailored to a PC. All right, so here's what he says about wounds and item slots. So some of the armor. So you start with some of the armor over here. Like what is soldier? Is there soldier? Yeah, soldier. Well, soldier starts with tent, card deck, and shovel. There were elements of character creation that I liked in the original Knave, which is why I made that Python character generator, which I think kind of got dropped here. Like, what is your weapon? What is your armor? Which I don't see now in this second edition. That got dropped. Like rolling for your armor and stuff. All right, so wounds and item slots. This is let's read his justification. What are we going for here? Item slots make tracking encumbrance fast and easy, which is an important part of the game. Important in the game focusing on exploration and resource management. Okay, yeah, I like item slots. Allowing item slots to be filled with wounds when HP is depleted means that damage gets divided into short-term and long-term pools. This creates a clear distinction between stamina loss and injuries, which is more intuitive than a single health pool. It also allows players to have a record of the character's injuries their PC has sustained when they return to town and heal, which can add to role playing. The GM can rule that certain wounds heal slower or require specific treatments before they heal. Using item slots to absorb damage does make starting PCs tougher than in most traditional fantasy RPGs, but at high levels, the disparity evens out due to Knaves using D6s for every PC's HP. Inspirations include Lamentations of the Flame Princess, Index Card RPG, Wolf Packs in Winter, Snow, I don't know that one. Maul's Ritter is listed here, and Into the Odd again. He didn't exactly answer the question that I wanted answered here. Okay, so he is trying to do like a vitality wounds system, a clear distinction between short-term and long-term wounds, between stamina loss and injuries. Okay, well, I may understand that. If you're going for two different levels like that, okay, I mean, that's been done in gaming before. So why does the injuries take up item slots? He doesn't address that here. He also doesn't address the idea of the PCs having to make sure that that their items are listed in a particular order that they are most willing to lose when this comes down. The kinds of things that we talked about, he doesn't really talk about right here. I mean, recording specific injuries, he talks about having role-playing flavor. Okay, got that. And then potential mechanical effects at the game master's option here. Increased durability of the PCs because they've got these item slots, but that doesn't really that didn't really address the reason that things that I was talking about. Bacon says, I still need to read Into the Odd and Tales from the Loop, which I likely erroneously associated with Into the Odd. We've looked at them here on the grind. I'm not sure where my book is, but I know we've looked at Into the Odd. We've been through Into the Odd on the grind before. So does anybody else have any? So I guess that didn't really answer my questions here. It might not have answered yours either. I understand the difference, but I understand separating the wounds vitality system. I understand that. But the impact of the item loss on gameplay and things like that is kind of what I would be expecting him to talk about. Hazard system. The system that powers dungeons and wilderness exploration is adopted from the hazard system rules created by Brendan S. at the blog Necropraxis and released under Creative Commons Attribution, unported license. Okay. Travel. Maps and Knave use 6 mile hexes for a number of reasons. I'm also a fan of 6 mile hexes. A 6 mile hex is about the area that a person can see while standing on a flat plane. If the character climbs to a high point, they can usually see into all the adjacent hexes. It's a manageable size the party can cover over a 4-hour watch. An experienced hiker can hike about 18 miles per day under good conditions. So this breaks down into 3 hexes of travel, enough to present a variety of incidents and travels. Inspiration in praise of the 6 Mile Hex blog post by the Hydra Grotto. Delving. The traditional dungeon crawl speed of 120 feet per turn is excruciatingly slow, so I ruled that at that speed you automatically detect traps. Throughout the game, searching uses up time rather than requiring a roll, since the information is so important to keeping the game moving. Now, I like that. I would lean into that as well. Like in Hero Quest, you don't roll to search. Okay, searching, it requires your turn. Now we have the problem that time is not a factor in Hero Quest, like we talk about all the time. But okay, you expend a certain amount of time and then you find what's there. I'm fine with that. I connected the different light sources to the searching rules so you can use candles instead of torches for the long burn time and low weight at the cost of slow searches. You can put a candle in a lantern case to protect it from being blown out by wind or running, but now it takes up a whole slot. Note that as long as PCs bring a candle with them, they will probably never be in total darkness. DBJ says Knave 2 is a fruitful void. Fruitful void. No rules for the most effective actions and equipment. Marbles, powder, rope, pastries, blankets, jewelry, ink, and more are far more useful than number hunting. Well, I like that. A fruitful void. No rules for the most effective actions and equipment. Marbles, powder, rope, pastries, blanket, jewelry, ink, and more are far more useful than number hunting. Well, maybe we need to give it a try. Encounters. I added activities table to the encounter procedure because I like the game world to feel alive and active, and it greatly expands the possibility space of how the encounter should play out. And I also made the reaction table very specific to aid the GM in role playing. Inspiration: the Dark of Hot Springs Island. Combat. I don't know that one. Combat. Combat in Knave depletes a PC's gear, whether that is HP, ammo, or weapons themselves due to breakage from rolling natural ones and making power attacks. Oh yeah, you can sacrifice a weapon to make a power attack. And a power attack was what? Declare a power attack before rolling damage dice to double the damage dice, but break the weapon. GMs can even rule that items break when the slot they are in gets filled with a wound, but this should be considered hard mode as it can result in losing essential items unexpectedly and create a death spiral. Item breakage is much simpler than in the first edition of Knave in order to make it easier to apply. PCs who want to focus on combat should fill up their item slots with a variety of weapons so they always have one at hand and so they can exploit enemies who have particular weaknesses. High rolls get automatic maneuvers in order to encourage players to look for advantages and to make combat more creative and cinematic. Inspirations: Dungeon Crawl Classics and The Legend of Zelda. So if I'm looking at where's the bestiary? So do some of these say that they're vulnerable to something? Black pudding only vulnerable to fire. Animated armor immune to mental effects. Ghoul says immune to mental spells. Lich says immune to mental spells as well as mundane electrical and cold damage. I'm not just seeing things that are like immune to or vulnerable to slashing or something like that. Werewolf only harmed by silver and magic. Spellcasting. Knave uses levelless spells so that any spell book the PCs find is usable. The 100 pre-written spells are all non-damaging, at least directly, utility spells in order to encourage a more devious, manipulative style of play for magic users. The spell generation tables have proven to be one of the most popular elements of my previous game, Maze Rats, so I ported it over to Knave in an expanded form for those who enjoy the improvisation and chaos and magic. When generating a damage-dealing spell, a good rule of thumb is that it deals int times d6 damage, although this can be reduced if it has other beneficial effects. PH says, you don't have some choices like Knave 1. You get what you get. Life is tough. If you try to do something with some danger to it, you will probably pay the price, and even with experience, bad things may happen. So have you played PH? Classic spell books. Spells from other old school RPGs differ from Knaves in that they have spell levels, usually ranging from 1 to 9. If you want to incorporate these into Knave, or if a PC runs into one while exploring a module, they can be presented as a whole book that can only be cast by a character whose int is equal to or greater than the spell's level. With a standard as with standard Knave spells, they can only be used once per day, and the PCs can only cast a number of spells equal to their int. Spell scrolls from classic modules can be cast by another character regardless of their int and don't count toward any limit for the day. They cannot be transcribed into spell books. Divine magic. Just as magic users carry spell books and fighters carry weapons, cleric types and knave carry relics. Relic magic. Okay, we kind of skipped over relic magic. Relic magic is intentionally freeform and requires negotiation between the player and the GM to come up with appropriate blessings. Maybe we should look at that. Where is relic magic? So that was supposed to be like divine magic? Relic magic. Page 32. Patrons are powerful magic beings, often incorporeal, who grant some of their powers to PCs through the use of relics. They might be petty gods, saints, nature spirits, outsiders, etc. Relics are magic items that are bound at the service of a particular patron, usually found in dungeons or in shrines. A relic might be a symbol of the patron, such as a weapon or an article of clothing. Shrines are religious sites dedicated to particular patrons, while PCs may frequently communicate with them. Where PCs can frequently communicate with them. Blessings. Once a PC finds a relic and communicates with its patron at the end of their shrine, at one of their shrines. So if you find a relic and communicate with its patron at one of its shrines, the patron will give the PCs a mission. If the PC completes the mission and returns to the shrine, the patron will imbue the relic with an ongoing blessing related to their domain. It should be something small but useful, such as an aura or a minor spell that can be cast multiple times per day. It should be designed in collaboration with the player. The tables for magic, potions, and powers can be helpful. This player lesson continues as long as the PCs possess the relic and remains in the patron's favor. Okay, so that's very different. Okay. If it's fast, it says, I actually like random character generation, either wholly or in part. Maybe, I mean, I was able to generate some characters fast using the Python I wrote. I have to see about this. We might have to make a Knave character one morning. So alchemy, it says alchemy arose out of my desire for a potion making system that didn't require players to search through hundreds of potion formula. As usual, I defaulted to let the players just make it up. Money and gear. Originally, Knave had much more detailed prices for items, but once PCs get their hand on a few piles of loot, it ceases to matter very much. General categories for prices are much more useful and let the GM ballpark the cost of large purchases. A good way to figure out the price for an expensive item is to use the baseline of 1C for a day of 10 coins for a day of unskilled labor. How many days of work is the object worth? I removed the copper, silver, electrum, gold, platinum system that many old school RPGs use, since that requires the GM to do math. Instead, everything is just a coin. So there you go. Oh, okay. So PH has both played and GM'd Knave 2. Cool. Okay, coins. PCs in Knave tend to gain wealth much slower than PCs in old school RPGs. Every gold piece a PC recovers in an adventure from an old school RPG is converted into 1C in Knave. Which is, so wait a minute. So, Every gold piece a PC recovers in an adventure from another old school RPG is converted into 1C in Knave, which equals 1/10 of a laborer's daily wage, or about 1 copper in other games. The ability to purchase expensive things like buildings, ships, and so on will likely not come from collecting piles of gold from dungeons, but by finding unique treasures that can be traded with rich NPCs. Also, remember that connections and favors will go much further than money. Inspirations, Lamentations of the Flame Princess. Buildings. Note that an aspiring overlord can use construction rules to build their own dungeon. Buildings can also be given as gifts for successful missions. Each party needs a home base to decorate and fortify. Warfare. The warfare rules aren't just for massive battles. They're also used to resolve smaller warband conflicts that would take too long to play out. Downtime. I first heard about gaining XP from carousing from the post Party Like It's 999 or 999 by Jeff Rentz at Jeff Games blog. The gambling system is inspired by a similar system by On Guard by Frank Chadwick. Recruiting. Players may find that with enough coin, they can hire large numbers of followers. This is fine. Hirelings run away at the first sign of trouble, and mercenaries are too smart to enter dungeons at all. Also, openly building a warband can have some fun consequences as local factions respond. Inspiration, Errant by Ava Islam. Monsters. Rather than pile of monster high with weird abilities, keep them simple with just 1 or 2 standout features that make them memorable. I like that. Think of what signs their presence might leave, what sounds they make, and how they smell so the player can anticipate them. Ask what sin or tragedy birthed this thing. Give it behaviors other than simply attacking on sight. Saving throws. When an effect from another old school GM or RPG requires a creature to make a saving throw, make an appropriate ability check instead. Okay. Doesn't really give us anything about this dungeon. Just gives us the layout here. And then also this map here. As always, makes me want to get to work and get things done, which is exactly what I'm going to be doing today. Oh, yes, and my upside down Knave book. All right, well, let's see. There's a lot to do today. But I've enjoyed hanging out. This was really fun. I wanted to look at that game for a while. It hasn't been here too long, but it's been on the shelf for a little while and haven't had time to get to it. So I'm glad we did. So I'm going to post the Discord server. Again, if you are not part of it, there you go. There's the link for it. I would love to see you there. The next time I'm live might be Sunday. Yes, it was a fantastic conversation. It was a great hangout. I think we learned a lot. It would be great to be able to play. So I'll be emailing the on the list today is to email the coffee shop players. Maybe we can come up with some way to play Knave in the coffee shop. We need some general layout for playing D20 based RPGs like that. All right, I'm out of here. Everybody, have a fantastic day. Go forth, be creative, be constructive.